welcome to my stamp studio. Today is another paper pumpkin alternative for the May 2021 Batter Up Paper Pumpkin Kit. This is the card we'll be making. Now, when I went ahead and used the contents of the kit to make this card, I actually had used up all of the card fronts. So I wanted to make more of these cards, so I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'll just set this one aside. And the first thing I did is I took a piece of Whisper White, and it's the thick basic white. It's measured at 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. So give it a good score right there. I then took a piece of Designer Series paper from the new designer paper called Beauty of the Earth. And so this is the other side. This is the front. This is cut at 5 1/4 by 4. 5.5 by 4 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down to the front of my card. So this is the second card in the series. The first card we made was that All-Star Baby card. Now let me just get this adhered on. I am using liquid glue, so I did pull in a couple different things, but I wanted to be able to use the contents of my kit, and the stamp set is really kind of what I was focusing on. So I'm going to go ahead and just adhere this right to the front of my card. There we go, just like that. All right, the next thing I did is from the prior video that we made this cute All-Star Baby card. If you remember, I had a strip of this starburst pattern, sunburst pattern that I wanted to use. So I'm going to have that piece pulled in. I am then going to be taking one of the envelopes that are in this kit. And the envelope is right here. So I was a little disappointed that this pattern did not go all the way down like it normally does, but that's okay because I figured out a way to use this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut off the adhesive here. So I'm just looking, that's where it ends. So I'm going to cut it right about there because I don't want the adhesive on there. Then I'm going to go ahead right to that score edge, and I'm going to trim just this top off just like that. Now this piece I am going to use for layering for different cards, so I'm just going to put the envelope piece aside. All right, so now for this, I need to have I believe it's a 3/4 inch strip. Let me just check. No, it's a 1/2 inch strip. So let's go ahead and we'll just use it from this side. So I'm going to use my score mark right here to cut a 1/2 inch strip. And now because this isn't even with the top, I want to make sure that I'm holding it in place. So I'm holding my grid, my guide, and I'm taking my trimmer and sliding it up so my paper doesn't move. There we go. I'll put this aside for another card. I am then going to just trim this straight on the end. Just like that. All right. And so now I've got my next piece for my card. So I've got those two pieces, and the next thing I did is I took a piece of basic white and I went ahead and run this through my die cutting machine. So I have 5 circles. I believe they're about 1 3/8 inch, and I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Write marker, and I'm just going to draw the little stitching on my baseballs just like this. So this is another fun way to use your stamp set that came with the Paper Pumpkin Kit, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. So let's just get this stitching done. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video while I do the rest of the baseballs here, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have my baseballs done here. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to stamp the bat in soft suede, and I'm also going to stamp that You're the Best. Now the reason I wanted to make this card is there's so many times in life that us as moms support our children when they're in baseball leagues and everything else like that, and I thought it was a really great one to recognize Mom and all the efforts that she does in supporting her child in baseball. So Let me just get out a scrap of Whisper White here. I just need to move a couple things around. There we go. Open my scrub up so I can clean my stamps. And I'm going to, actually I have one already stamped. So I'm just going to go ahead and fussy cut this out. I do have my paper piercing mat here because I do need to have a cushioned surface underneath my stamp. So when I stamp that sentiment, I get a nice even coverage. So it's really important when you're using the photopolymer that you use something underneath. I like using the paper pierce mat, which is available in our annual catalog. You could use the foam mat from the Stamparatus. Or worst case is, put one of your catalogs underneath and cover it with a piece of scrap paper, and then you can stamp your image. All right, so I think the image is going to fit here on this scrap. Let's just get rid of that. I'm going to slide all this up so you can see what I'm doing. I am taking the Real Red stamp pad, and this is one of the colors that coordinate with the Paper Pumpkin kit. And we'll grab the You're the Best. So with these kind of stamps, I tend to like to drop it on my paper and then pick it up with my block. That way there's no twisting or anything of the stamp before I actually stamp my image. So there we go. And we're just going to be fussy cutting this one out as well. So the only dies that I really used were to cut my circles. So I used the layering circles dies. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is in this little stamp set here, we do have Mom. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out Mom. I'm not going to cut that out. I'm sorry. I'm going to take that so I can punch it up, stamp it. Oh my goodness. All right, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp that in black Memento ink. And I'm going to stamp it right on this swoosh banner here. Make sure I'm fully inked there. And I'm just going to go on part of the banner where I know it's going to all fit. All right. So now we'll just fussy cut this out. And one of the tips I have when you're cutting on an image like this, if you're not sure like how well that you can go and cut it around, what you can do is take a pencil and kind of draw the shape that you want to cut to give yourself a little bit of guideline here as you're cutting. And oh, that got a little close, so let's go ahead and erase that a little bit. And there we go. So I just have little guidelines. So when I'm cutting, I'm going to cut inside that pencil mark, and it's just going to give me the shape that I want. And I'm just turning the paper as I go. And that got a little wide, so I'm going to trim it down just a little bit more. And we'll go right there. All right. And if you have pencil mark after you've cut your image out, don't worry, you can erase it. So I'll have that little bit of pencil mark right there. Okay, so I'm going to come back in with my eraser, and I'm just going to erase that little bit right there. And there we go. Great image. And let's start assembling our card now. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my strips of cardstock, well, my strips of paper. This is from a card front in the kit, and I just need to trim that down to be 5.5, so it's 5.5 inches long. And we'll go ahead and use some liquid glue on this. And be careful when you're putting liquid glue on when you're doing it on top of your project. Probably not the best idea because you don't want to get glue all over everything. I'm going to slide this over to the right. I'm just going to leave a little bit of this wood grain pattern showing because it reminds me of kind of like a bat. That's why I did that. And so now we're going to take this strip here, and I'm just going to trim off part of the end at an angle. I didn't measure it. That's okay. I'm just going to have it right there. So my first one was a little longer. That's all right. It can be whatever length you have. but it's a fun way to use some of the scraps from the kit. And I'm just going to layer it over that first piece I had. And now we're going to go ahead and place our baseballs around our cards. So I am just going to be kind of tucking these in this way and that way, just so I have a general idea of where I want these to be. There we go, just like that is fine. And now what I'll do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to glue my first one down. So I'm going to take adhesive here, and I'm just going to put it on the center of the back. And then I'm going to put this baseball right here. And this gives me the opportunity then to come back in and slide these other pieces. So if I just put a little bit of adhesive in the middle there, I can slide these and tuck these as I need, but they'll still stay on the card. So again, just a little adhesive goes a long way. And I'm just changing the angle that the little stitching is. And again, I use the Stampin' Write Real Red marker to make those lines and stitching. If you want them more precise, what you could do is take a circle and layer it over that and trace it. I didn't feel that I had to be exact. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and take this and put this up on dimensionals. So just add a couple here. And all the supplies that are used in today's card, today's alternative card, will be listed in the description below. Put that right there. Bring in our bat. And if you would, please subscribe to my channel. That way you can get notified of any videos that I post once you click that little bell. And I'll be posting about once a week. I have a Facebook Live every Thursday night. So I'm trying to get the videos of each of those cards that I make. That Facebook Live is an online class, free to everyone. And when you make a qualifying purchase, you can get that kit that I made that night. All right, so I'm taking my Take-A-Pick tool and grabbing the putty, and I'm going to grab these resin dots that came with my kit. I'm really excited that the Designer Series paper had this kind of wood grain pattern. It's really cool. So I was able to reproduce my card. Okay, so here is our card. So this was using the contents of the kit, and this was still using the stamp set, but adding a little bit of other paper. So I added the thick white and the designer paper so I could make more cards. Thank you for joining my video. I appreciate it. Again, please subscribe to my channel and click the notify button, and you'll know when I'm putting more videos out. And in the description below, I'll have a list of all the supplies that I use to make this. There'll be also a link to my online store. If you click on any of the items, you should be taken right to my online store. And if you're not an email subscriber, please go ahead and click the link to subscribe to my email list. That will give you the opportunity to receive emails from me on class specials and events that I have coming up, so you don't miss out. Thanks and happy crafting.